Who exactly have you all been pretending Olivia is? The room went dead quiet. My mother froze with her wine glass halfway to her lips. My brother stopped chewing. No one looked at me, because the man asking that question was a federal judge, and he had just recognized me, while my family was busy pretending I was nobody. 10 seconds earlier, my mother had introduced me as the daughter who worked in some office. She forgot one detail. I was the investigative reporter whose work had helped expose corruption in his courtroom. That dinner was supposed to celebrate my brother's engagement. Instead, it became the night every lie in our house started collapsing. But none of that began at the table. To understand why my own family needed me invisible, you have to go back. The truth is, it should have ended years earlier. I was 8 the first time I understood my place in that house. I dragged a dining chair across the living room floor and climbed up to the mantel over our fireplace. There were 7 framed photos, 6 of Jason, T-ball uniform, missing front tooth, church play, birthday cake grin, little league trophy, and one of me. Mine was tucked behind a ceramic angel and a fake ivy plant. You had to lean sideways just to see my face, so I pulled it out and set it in the center. I remember stepping back and feeling proud of myself, like maybe I had solved something adults missed. The next day, it was hidden again. Same spot, same leaves. That was the first lesson. Some families don't reject you loudly. They edit you quietly. After that, I stopped moving the frame and started moving myself. I thought if I got straight A's, maybe things would shift. I did. Nothing shifted. I thought if I won the county essay contest, maybe my mother would mention it once. She didn't. That same week, Jason got 2 hits in a middle school scrimmage, and she called 3 relatives before dinner. You notice patterns long before you admit them. I'd come home holding certificates like evidence. She'd glance once, then ask if I'd seen Jason's new batting stance. At first, I told myself she was distracted, then tired, then stressed. Kids are generous that way. We turn neglect into excuses because the truth feels too heavy to carry early. By high school, I knew better. I just didn't know what to do with it. Jason wasn't cruel, not really. That would have been simpler. He was easygoing, funny, the kind of boy people praised automatically. Doors opened for him because everyone liked how he entered rooms. I was quieter, more serious. I asked questions no one wanted at dinner. Why does Dad never say no to Mom? Why do we pretend money is fine? Why does everyone clap for effort but go silent for results? Questions like that don't make you popular in a family built on appearances. So I became useful instead. I cooked when Mom worked late, paid small bills once I had a job, helped Jason with homework he forgot to do. I learned something dangerous early. If love was inconsistent, usefulness looked close enough. And when you're young, close enough can fool you for years. There was one graduation I still think about. I finished near the top of my class. Honor cords, scholarship offers, the whole thing. I scanned the bleachers before they called my row. Dad was there. Mom wasn't. She'd gone to Jason's regional baseball game because he might get some minutes. Might. I stood in line holding a diploma tube and felt embarrassed for being disappointed. That's how twisted it gets. You start apologizing for needing normal things. Later that night, she called me excited. They almost put him in. Not congratulations. Not proud of you. They almost put him in. I laughed when I hung up. Not because it was funny, because something in me got tired. People think heartbreak is dramatic. Sometimes it sounds like a small laugh in an empty kitchen. When I left for college, my father hugged me like he was borrowing someone else's arms. My mother adjusted my collar and said, "Don't go getting ideas above your raising." I knew what she meant. Do well, but not loudly. Succeed, but don't outshine the script. Be impressive somewhere else. Just don't bring it home. So I left for Chicago with 2 suitcases, a rusted Civic, and a hunger I didn't know how to name yet. Part ambition, part anger. Part hope that distance might do what love never had. Even then, I still thought success would fix everything, that if I built enough proof, one day she'd see me clearly. That's the trap children carry into adulthood. We think achievement can earn what should have been given freely. I didn't know it then, but Chicago was where I stopped chasing her approval and started becoming dangerous without it. The first winter nearly sent me home. Lake wind cut through my coat like it had personal issues. My apartment was a third-floor box with bad heat, a leaning radiator, and a neighbor who played trumpet after midnight. I loved it immediately. For the first time, every inch of my life was mine, messy, underfunded, and honest. I worked mornings at a coffee shop near campus, classes by day, student newsroom at night. Most weeks, I slept like it was optional, but I felt awake. Some people fall in love with cities. I fell in love with finding things people hoped stayed buried: a missing budget line, a fake statistic, a landlord skipping repairs while cashing checks. Small stories at first. Still, I noticed something. The truth changes shape when you put it in print. People ignore rumors, they panic at receipts. That lesson followed me into my first real newsroom after graduation. The Chicago Herald gave me an entry-level desk, a flickering monitor, and assignments nobody wanted. Obituaries, weather rewrites, community notes buried on page 12. I said yes to all of it, because sometimes the side door opens faster than the front. I stayed late, learned records requests, learned who lied smoothly and who lied too fast, learned that silence in government offices usually meant you were close. My first real break came from mold. A mother called about her kids getting sick in public housing. Everyone had ignored her for months. I went anyway. The hallway smelled wet and old. Paint peeled in strips. A little boy coughed through the interview while his mother apologized for the mess. She shouldn't have been apologizing. I filed the story that night. 2 inspections followed, then fines, then resignations. Nobody called resignations. My editor dropped the paper on my desk and said, "Nice work." I carried those 2 words for weeks. I almost called my mother. That part embarrasses me now. No matter how far I'd come, some small version of me still wanted to say, "See? I matter now." Instead, I called the number and got halfway through the story before she interrupted. "Did you hear Jason sold 3 cars this weekend?" There are moments when reality stops asking politely. That was one of them. So I stopped bringing my wins home. I kept collecting them anyway. Promotion by promotion, byline by byline, bigger stories, dirtier rooms, longer nights, the kind of work that stains your shoes and sharpens your instincts. I learned to sit quietly while people underestimated me. It saves time. Years later, I spent 8 months reporting on police shootings in a nearby city, body cam footage, court records, families who'd learned grief as paperwork. That case changed careers. My series ran front page for days. National outlets picked it up. Lawyers cited it. Protesters carried copies folded under their arms. And in the middle of that trial sat the federal judge now standing in my parents' dining room. He saw me every day. Saw me taking notes, waiting in hallways, asking questions no one enjoyed answering. After the verdict, he shook my hand and thanked me for doing the work thoroughly. I remember nodding like that happened all the time. It didn't. I wanted to call my mother again. I didn't. Some approval arrives too late to still be necessary. By then, I had built something she never understood. A life that didn't need her witness. What I hadn't realized yet was that she had built a lie just as carefully. I saw it one Thanksgiving through a kitchen doorway. My mother stood near the pie table with 2 neighbors and my aunt, smiling that polished smile she saved for audiences. They asked how I was doing in Chicago. She sighed first. That should have warned me. "Oh, Olivia's figuring things out," she said. "She does some office work now. Nothing too serious. The city can be hard on sensitive people." Sensitive people. I was 29, covering corruption hearings and filing stories before dawn. But in her version, I was a fragile temp with emotional weather. The women nodded with that soft pity people use when they've been handed a script. I stood at the sink holding a coffee mug so tight my hand hurt. Part of me wanted to walk in there and correct every sentence. Part of me already knew facts never stood a chance against the performance. So I rinsed the same mug twice and stayed quiet. That was the pattern. She didn't lie recklessly, she lied strategically. Just enough truth to feel believable. Just enough damage to keep me small. Jason sold cars at a dealership outside Indianapolis. Honest work, normal work, nothing wrong with it. In her mouth, he became a rising executive. Regional leadership track, major accounts, corporate eyes on him. One time she told her church group he was flying to Dallas for business strategy meetings. He was attending a weekend sales training at an airport hotel. I know because he texted me asking if Dallas had decent barbecue. That was the strange part. Jason knew she exaggerated. I knew she exaggerated. Sometimes even she knew she was exaggerating. But once a lie gets applause, people protect it like income. I confronted her once after dinner. Why do you do that? She kept wiping the counter. Do what? You know what. About Jason. About me. She shrugged without looking up. It sounds better. 4 words. That was her whole philosophy. Not what was true. What sounded better. Some parents care how their children live. Others care how their children photograph. I stopped trying to be understood after that. But I still watched. She built an online museum for him. Photos of Jason in suits at dealership banquets. Jason holding plaques. Jason grilling burgers with captions about leadership and loyalty. 2 years of posts. My name never appeared once. Sometimes an elbow in the corner. A shoulder cropped near Christmas lights. Evidence I existed, accidentally. One night, after a 14-hour reporting shift, I sat on my couch eating takeout noodles straight from the carton and scrolled through her page. I'd just been told my investigative series was up for a national award. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I was staring at photos of my brother smiling beside a leased SUV. I tapped like on one picture and commented, "Glad he's doing well." An hour later, the comment was gone. Deleted. Cleaned up like clutter. That hit harder than I expected. Not because of social media, because even in a public space she still wanted me edited out. People think rejection is one big event. Sometimes it's tiny choices repeated faithfully. A cropped photo, a changed title, a false concern spoken sweetly. That's how identities get rewritten while everyone calls it family. By then, I understood something uncomfortable. She didn't need me to fail. She only needed me unseen. And the dinner invitation that came later made perfect sense once I saw that. My father called at 1:47 in the morning. Nobody calls that late with kindness. I sat up fast, heart racing, already expecting hospitals or sirens. Instead, he cleared his throat and said, "Your brother's fiancée is bringing her parents Friday. Your mother says you can come." Can. Not wants you there. Not we'd love to see you. Just permission. I almost laughed. Then my mother's voice cut through the background. Tell her the rest. My father lowered his voice like secrecy could soften it. Her father is a federal judge, important man, big night for Jason. Then she grabbed the phone. Olivia, listen carefully. Keep your mouth shut about your job. Tell them you work in an office. Do not start talking about your stories. I stared at the ceiling in the dark. There are insults that still surprise you, even after years of practice. Why would I lie? Because this dinner is about family, she snapped. Not your little drama career. Little. Funny how people shrink anything they envy. I could have refused right there. 34 years old, independent, 3 hours away. No reason to play along. But old family roles are stubborn. They survive logic. Part of me still wanted one normal night. Part of me still wanted to help Jason. So I said yes to something I already resented. That's how control often works. It doesn't need chains. Just history. Friday, I left the newsroom early and changed in the bathroom stall. Dark jeans, navy blouse, the blazer I wore when I accepted my journalism award. I hadn't planned on wearing it. My hand reached for it anyway. Maybe some part of me needed armor. The drive to Maple Grove felt longer than usual. Cornfields, truck stops, winter sky, miles of rehearsed patience. I told myself I could stay quiet for 2 hours. Smile. Eat roast chicken. Leave. Simple plans collapse fastest around family. My mother opened the front door before I knocked. Hair perfect. Lipstick perfect. Expression already disappointed. "You're late." I was 4 minutes early. She stepped aside and motioned me in like staff entering a venue. No hug, no hello, just instructions. She marched me into the dining room where place cards were already set. Crystal glasses, folded napkins, candles trying hard to look expensive. Jason sat at the head, his fiancée beside him, judge and wife across from them, my parents near center. My card was at the far end near the wall. Of course it was. Even the seating chart knew my role. "Sit there," she said. "And please, let Jason answer questions tonight." I looked at her. "You mean, let Jason perform?" She ignored that cleanly. Then she straightened my napkin like I was 8 again. "If they ask, you do administrative work downtown. Keep it vague." "Why are you embarrassed by what I do?" That landed for half a second. I saw it. Then she covered it fast. "I'm not embarrassed. I'm protecting the evening." People who control narratives love the word protecting. It sounds kinder than managing. My father drifted in, holding sports pages he wasn't reading. He glanced at me, then at the floor. He had spent years perfecting passive silence. It was his strongest skill. Jason came over, smiling too hard. "Just get through dinner, okay?" That sentence bothered me more than hers. Because he knew. He knew it was wrong and still wanted convenience. That's how decent people become useful to bad systems. They keep asking for peace from the person paying for it. The doorbell rang. My mother changed instantly. Voice warmer, spine straighter, smile brighter. Performance mode. Jason's fiancée walked in first, kind eyes, nervous energy. Then the second ring came. The judge entered with his wife. Tall, calm, the kind of presence that rearranges rooms without trying. My mother floated toward them with practiced charm. "So honored to have you." She introduced Jason like unveiling a statue. Then she turned to me. "And this is our daughter Olivia. She works in an office in Chicago. Keeps busy. Nothing too intense." Nothing too intense. I felt something in me go still. The judge took my hand. Firm grip. Direct eyes. He held it one beat longer than polite people usually do. Then he said my name slowly. "Olivia Bennett." Not asking. Recognizing. And in that moment, I knew the evening had already slipped out of my mother's hands. Dinner moved forward like nothing had happened. That's the strange thing about tense rooms. People keep passing bread as if denial counts as stability. My mother talked too much. Jason laughed too fast. My father cut his roast into pieces so small it looked like busy work. The judge said very little. That worried me more than questions would have. Quiet people are usually thinking. Every time conversation drifted near me, my mother intercepted it. "What part of Chicago do you live in, Olivia?" "She's always moving around." "How did you get into your field?" "Oh, office jobs are all networking now." "What kind of hours do you work?" "She keeps odd schedules." I barely needed to be there. She had brought her own ventriloquist act. Part of me wanted to challenge her publicly. Part of me was still that little girl on the mantel, hoping maybe this time she'd stop. Hope can survive in embarrassing conditions. The judge noticed everything. You could see it in the pauses, in the way he let answers hang too long, in the small glance he exchanged with his wife after my third interruption. Then Hannah mentioned a recent article about city corruption. She said she'd read it during nursing school and couldn't believe how deep the reporting went. My mother smiled politely, not understanding where it was going. The judge turned toward Hannah. Was that the Bennett series? She nodded. Then he looked back at me. Not vaguely, directly, sharply, and I watched recognition finish settling into place. Southport housing probe, he said. 3-part investigation. My mother reached for her wine too quickly. I felt my pulse in my throat. He remembered. Not just my face, my work. There are moments your life splits quietly. No music, no dramatic lighting, just one fact entering the room at the right time. This was one of them. My mother laughed that thin laugh again. Oh, Olivia dabbles in writing. Dabbles. The judge finally looked at her. It wasn't rude. Somehow that made it worse. Mrs. Bennett, he said evenly, your daughter's reporting was cited in open court. No one moved. She exposed conditions affecting hundreds of tenants. Agencies responded because of that work. The room lost oxygen. Jason stopped chewing. My father set down his fork like it had become dangerous. Hannah stared at me with a kind of delighted confusion. My mother blinked twice, buying time that never arrived. I didn't feel triumphant. That surprised me. I felt sad first. Because the respect I'd chased for years had just been handed to me by a stranger. And strangers often do what family refuses. The judge lifted his glass, then set it back down untouched. I'm surprised to see you introduced so modestly, he said. Then he asked the question that tore the whole script open. Who exactly have you all been pretending she is? No one answered. My mother looked around the table the way people do when they expect someone else to save them. My father suddenly found the salt shaker fascinating. Jason stared at the centerpiece like flowers might testify for him. I could feel every year of silence sitting beside me. Part of me wanted to rescue them. That instinct embarrassed me. You spend long enough managing family tension, and even justice can feel impolite. So I spoke first. I'm their daughter, I said, and I'm an investigative reporter at the Herald. Simple sentence, it landed like broken glass. My mother inhaled sharply. Oh, Olivia always makes things sound bigger than they are. There it was. Even cornered, she reached for the same tool. Minimize, redirect, smile. The judge folded his hands. Bigger than citations in federal court? My mother's face lost color. Hannah turned toward me. Wait, you're that Olivia Bennett? I gave a small nod. She laughed once in disbelief. We studied your housing series in ethics class. Jason looked at me like I'd tricked him by succeeding quietly. That's another family habit. They ignore your growth, then resent being surprised by it. My mother recovered just enough to pivot. Well, Jason's doing wonderfully too. She touched his arm like pressing a button. He's basically running his branch now. They rely on him for everything. Jason closed his eyes for half a second. That told me more than words. The judge shifted his attention. Is that correct, Jason? Jason swallowed. It's not exactly titled that. My mother jumped in. He's modest. No, Jason said, still staring down. I'm sales. The room went still again. Not because selling cars was shameful, because truth had entered twice in one night. And lies hate company. My mother laughed too loudly. Senior sales. He's being technical. Jason looked up then, finally irritated. I'm not senior either, Mom. That surprised all of us. Sometimes the quietest rebellion is just refusing to keep repeating nonsense. Hannah leaned back slowly. So you let me believe you were an executive? Jason rubbed his forehead. I didn't say that. You never corrected it. That one hit. Because silence is often just outsourced lying. My father muttered, Diane, enough. It may have been the first time I'd heard him oppose her in public. My mother turned on him instantly. Don't start now. Then to Hannah's parents. I only wanted us to look our best. The judge's wife set down her fork carefully. Your best, she said, should have survived the truth. I almost smiled. My mother blinked fast, eyes wet now. People always called her emotional. What they meant was unchallenged. She pointed at me. She knew what tonight meant. She could have helped. That sentence told on everything. Helped. Meaning lie smaller, stay dim, protect the chosen image. I felt something in me settle. Not anger. Clarity. I helped for years, I said quietly. I just stopped helping you rewrite me. No one interrupted. Even my mother knew better than to step on that moment. Jason exhaled hard. I should have said something a long time ago. It wasn't a grand apology, but truth rarely arrives dressed for ceremony. Hannah looked between all of us, then at the ring on her hand. I recognized that expression. It was the face people make when they realize the problem is older than tonight. My father looked 10 years older in 1 minute. The judge remained calm, but there was steel in it now. Families think secrets live safely inside walls. They forget outsiders can hear echoes. Then Hannah slid her chair back, and that sound was louder than anything said all night. She didn't stand immediately. She just sat there, palms flat on the table, staring at the ring like it belonged to someone else now. Jason reached for her hand. Hannah, come on. This is family stuff. She pulled back. That phrase never works once people understand what it means. Family stuff usually means damage with branding. She looked at him carefully. How long have you let this happen? Jason opened his mouth, then closed it. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Because confusion is hard to sell when you benefited from the system. It's not like that, he said. She nodded slowly. Then explain it in a way that's better. He couldn't. My mother stepped in fast. Sweetheart, every family has misunderstandings. No. Some families have misunderstandings. Others have hierarchies. The judge's wife stood first. I think we should go. My mother panicked. No, please, we can reset. Dessert is coming. That line still amazes me. Some people think pie can survive truth. Hannah finally stood. Her chair scraped again, sharper this time. She twisted the ring once, then slid it off. No dramatic toss. No tears. She set it gently beside her plate. That calmness shook everyone more than screaming would have. I'm not marrying into something built on pretending, she said. Jason went pale. You're ending this over one dinner? She looked at him with genuine sadness. No, I'm ending this because one dinner revealed years. That sentence stayed with me. Big collapses usually begin with old cracks. My father covered his face with one hand. My mother started crying instantly, but even then I couldn't tell how much was grief and how much was image loss. She pointed at me again. You did this. I met her eyes. No, I stopped helping you hide it. The judge placed a hand on Hannah's shoulder and guided her toward the entryway. His wife followed. Jason stood there frozen, staring at the ring like it might reverse time if he looked hard enough. I knew that feeling too. The moment when consequences stop being theoretical. Hannah paused near the door and turned back to me. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I nodded. You don't owe me that. Then they left. The front door closed, and for the first time in my parents' house, silence belonged to me. No one moved. Jason stared at the hallway like shock might reopen it. My father kept looking at the table. My mother cried into a napkin she hadn't touched all night. Then she looked up at me. This is what you wanted. It was almost impressive. Even now, with the ring still warm on the table, she needed a villain more than truth. I stood slowly. Not dramatic. Not angry. Just done. I wanted a seat at my own family's table, I said. That's all. She shook her head hard. You always make everything about yourself. That line used to work on me. It used to send me into explaining, defending, shrinking, apologizing for taking up normal human space. But some sentences expire once you heal enough. I picked up my blazer from the chair. No, I said. I spent years making everything about keeping you comfortable. That landed. You can tell when truth finds bone. Jason muttered my name like a warning. I ignored it. My father still said nothing, which somehow said plenty. I looked at my mother and felt something unexpected. Not hate, grief. Because I finally understood she might never become the mother I kept waiting for, and waiting can waste whole decades. "I'm not doing this anymore," I said. "I'm not being smaller so someone else can feel bigger." The room stayed still. Even my mother had no quick reply for that one. People lose language when old tricks stop working. I slipped my arms into the blazer, the same one I wore accepting my award. Funny how confidence sometimes hangs in a closet until you need it. At the doorway, I turned once more. "If you want me in your life," I said, "it will be as I am. Not as the version you can manage." Then I left. No slammed door. No speech from the porch. Just footsteps. Keys. Cold air. Quiet exits confuse controlling people the most. They don't know where to throw the blame when you're already gone. And halfway to my car, my phone started buzzing. I didn't check it. That was new. For years, any call from home could hijack my mood, reroute my night, make me feel 12 again. I used to answer fast, like urgency was the same thing as importance. It isn't. I unlocked the car, tossed my bag into the passenger seat, and sat there with both hands on the wheel. The porch light glowed behind me. No one came out. That felt symbolic in ways I wasn't ready to unpack. My phone buzzed again. Then again. Mother. Jason. Mother. I turned it face down. The silence inside the car felt different than the silence in that house. Their silence had always asked me to shrink. This one gave me room. I started the engine and pulled onto the road slow, tires crunching over old gravel I'd known since childhood. Every landmark looked smaller leaving than arriving. The mailbox, the maple tree, the front windows where I'd once stood hoping to be seen. Funny how places lose power when you stop begging them for permission. Part of me expected tears. Part of me expected guilt. Instead, I felt tired first, then light. Not happy. Not yet. Freedom usually enters quietly. It doesn't kick doors down. It just notices one is unlocked. At the first red light, I finally glanced at the screen. 9 missed calls. 3 messages. I smiled once, small and honest. For the first time, their panic was no longer my emergency. And when the highway opened ahead of me, I let it. I didn't look at my phone again until morning. Sunlight changes what feels survivable. So does coffee. I stood in my kitchen barefoot, city noise outside the window, and turned the screen over like it might bite. 10 messages. My mother led the pile. "How could you embarrass us like that? You ruined your brother's future. I hope that career keeps you warm." Interesting choice of words. As if truth were cruelty, and consequences were something I did to them. Jason's texts came next. "You could have just played along. It was one dinner. Mom hasn't stopped crying." That one almost got me. Not because of guilt. Because sadness has always been the family currency, and I was trained to pay. Then I caught myself. Crying after years of manipulation is still fallout, not innocence. My father sent one message at 6:08 a.m. "I'm sorry, Oliva." 3 words. Late. Small. Real. I read that one twice. Part of me wanted to be angry he'd waited this long. Part of me knew some people only find courage after collapse. Growth is messy when fear raised you. I set the phone down and looked around my apartment. Dish in the sink, notes on the counter, a dying plant by the window. My life was ordinary and honest. That felt richer than anything staged at that dinner. Then another message came from an unknown number. "Hi, Olivia. It's Hannah. I owe you an apology." I stared at it longer than the others, because accountability sounds different when it isn't forced. I typed back slowly. "You don't owe me one, but coffee would be nice." And just like that, the story stopped being about what I lost and started becoming about what might finally be possible. I met Hannah 3 days later at a cafe near the newsroom. She came in wearing jeans, no ring, no makeup, and the kind of tired face honesty usually leaves behind. I should have seen it sooner, she said before sitting down. That told me a lot. People who want image start with excuses. People who want truth start with ownership. I shrugged. You saw it when it mattered. She nodded but didn't let herself off easy. I saw enough to benefit from it before that. Fair point. We talked for an hour. About Jason. About my mother. About how some families train outsiders fast. Compliment the golden child. Ignore the quiet one. Call tension disrespect. I watched her connect pieces in real time. That's always strange to witness. Someone realizing you're normal was never normal. Then she said something I respected. I don't think Jason is cruel. I think he's comfortable. That was sharper than anger. Cruel people are obvious. Comfortable people let damage continue because it costs them nothing. A week later, Jason called. I almost didn't answer. His voice sounded rough, smaller somehow. I started therapy, he said. No dramatic speech, no sudden transformation. Just that. Then came a messy apology in fragments. For laughing when Mom dismissed me, for staying quiet, for letting me carry tension he helped create. I listened more than I spoke. Part of me wanted to punish him with silence. Part of me knew growth rarely arrives polished. You don't need my forgiveness today, I said. You need consistency. He exhaled hard. Yeah, I know. Maybe he did. Maybe he was just starting to. Either way, it was more truth than I'd heard from him in years. Sometimes redemption isn't a grand return, it's one uncomfortable step repeated enough times to matter. And while Jason was learning to speak honestly, my mother chose something else. She disappeared. No calls, no guilt texts, no group messages with fake holiday cheer. Just silence from Maple Grove for 6 straight weeks. It was strange how peaceful that felt. When chaos stops, your body notices before your mind does. I slept better, worked cleaner, stopped checking my phone every time it buzzed. Then she called on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing documents. I stared at her name until it almost stopped ringing. Then I answered. Hi, Mom. No performance voice this time. No sugar. No indignation. Just breathing. I don't know how to do this, she said. That may have been the most honest sentence I'd ever heard from her. I leaned back in my chair and waited. I wanted that dinner to go well, she said. I wanted us to look like a family people respected. Look like. There it was again. Even in confession, image entered first. Then her voice cracked. And I was afraid. If they saw who you really are, they'd see what I'm not. That one reached me. Not because it excused anything, because it explained more than I wanted. Some parents compete with the child they should celebrate. I'm sorry for lying about you, she said. I'm sorry for asking you to be smaller. I closed my eyes. Part of me wanted to melt instantly, become the easy daughter again, accept scraps because they finally sounded warm. Part of me remembered the cost of that role. Forgiveness without boundaries is just reopening the door. I appreciate you saying it, I told her. But I'm not coming back to the old version of us. She cried softly. I know. Maybe she did. Maybe she was just learning that apologies don't erase invoices already paid. We talked another 10 minutes. Nothing dramatic. No movie ending. Just 2 women speaking honestly for once. When we hung up, I felt lighter and sadder at the same time. Truth often does both. Then 3 weeks later, I drove back home for the first time since the dinner. My father opened the door before I knocked. He hugged me awkwardly, too tight, then too loose. Progress sometimes looks clumsy. I stepped inside and smelled the same candles, the same wood polish, the same house I'd spent years trying to earn. Then I saw the mantel. I stopped walking. My childhood photo sat in the center, not hidden behind the ivy, not tucked beside decorations, centered between Jason's graduation picture and a family Christmas frame. The fake plant was moved to the far end, crooked like someone relocated it in a hurry. I laughed once, quiet and surprised. My mother came from the kitchen wiping her hands on a towel. She saw me looking. Neither of us spoke for a second. Then she said, "I didn't know where else to put it." That was such a small sentence, and somehow it carried years. Part of me wanted a bigger apology, a speech, tears, public regret. Instead, I got effort. Sometimes healing arrives badly packaged but sincere. I nodded. "It looks right there." She swallowed hard and went back to the kitchen before emotion could catch her. I stood there a moment longer, staring at a photograph that hadn't changed once. Only its place had. And sometimes that's how families begin again. Not with perfect speeches, not with erased history, just one honest move at a time. What I learned is simple. If love requires you to shrink, it isn't love, it's control. If someone only values the edited version of you, let them miss access to the real one. I spent years trying to earn a seat that was already mine. Never do that. Respect given late still counts, but self-respect matters first. The night they finally saw me changed less than the day I saw myself clearly. That was the real beginning. A lot of people spend years trying to earn love that should have come freely. This story reminds us of something hard. Respect cannot grow where truth is always minimized. Some families teach you to stay small, stay quiet, keep proving your worth. And after a while, that can feel normal. But peace starts the moment you stop chasing approval and start honoring yourself. Boundaries are not cruelty, they're self-respect. Success means very little if it only exists to impress people who refuse to truly see you. It is never too late to step out of old roles, never too late to choose honesty, never too late to build a life where you are valued as you really are. Sometimes the real victory is finally becoming visible to yourself.